The dark psychology of ignoring someone is this. The fact you're trying to ignore them is proof they've already won. Your pocket buzzes when it didn't buzz. Understand the enemy first. Attention thieves, status hunters, chaos agents displaying the dark triad of psychological manipulation, Machiavellianism, narcissism, and psychopathy. They don't need to beat you. They just need you to react, out loud or inside your skull. It's 2 a.m. You roll over, screen glow on your face, and there it is again. The same name, the same thread, the same war you swore you were done with. You don't even need a message. Your mind opens the mental courtroom and starts arguing with a ghost. That's not ignoring, that's contact, through your nervous system. Ignoring isn't power, it's effort, and effort proves ownership. By the end of this breakdown, the person you're trying to ignore won't be a threat anymore. They'll be a ghost in a machine you've already dismantled. Ignore them sounds like strength because it looks like restraint. But most of the time, it's just a visible posture, a pose you wear so other people will read it as dominance. If your silence is meant to be seen, it's not silence, it's a message. It's covert begging for respect. Notice that I'm not responding. Notice that I'm above this. Notice that you can't get to me the moment you need them to notice your distance. Your distance isn't yours anymore. It becomes a negotiation. This is why ignoring fails. It doesn't end the connection. It intensifies it. Because your mouth is quiet, but your mind gets loud. You replay scenes like surveillance footage. You draft comebacks in the shower. You imagine the perfect line that would make them freeze. Blink. Regret. You scan for updates like a guard on a wall. You check if they watched your story, liked a post, spoke to a mutual friend, showed up somewhere you might be. You call it ignoring, but it's obsession wearing a tuxedo. You're living in an attention economy. Every spike of outrage, every pulse of wounded pride, every how dare they monologue you run in your head is a donation. You're funding their presence inside you for free. They don't need to win an argument, they just need to rent space. Here's the mechanic most people miss. Social hierarchy isn't just who speaks louder, it's who can create movement in someone else. If a person can disturb your baseline, raise your heart rate, tighten your jaw, change your posture, hijack your thoughts, then they've got leverage. Even if you never reply, your body replies, your attention replies, your day bends around them. That's why ignoring often signals unresolved conflict, not dominance. In social terms, your silence becomes a flare that says, there is unfinished business here. High-status people don't advertise restraint. They behave like access is scarce, because it is. The performative ignore is loud. You may look calm, but the tension leaks. Performance is readable. The weak move is the silent treatment, emotional bargaining disguised as discipline. It's punishment designed to extract a chase, an apology, a concession. And notice what that reveals. You still believe the relationship is the battlefield. You still believe the outcome depends on their recognition. You still need their reaction to validate your strategy. So here's a micro-test that exposes ownership instantly. If you feel relief when they notice your silence, you weren't ignoring them, you were training them. Real power is when their existence doesn't create movement inside yours. So stop staring at the story, what they said, what they meant, what they deserve. Look at the mechanics of control. Ownership isn't a dramatic concept, it's simple, cold, measurable. If someone can change your state on command, they own you, at least for that moment. They don't need your loyalty, they don't need your friendship, they don't need access to your house, they need access to your switches. And most people walk around with their switches exposed. Names become handles, notifications become levers, a mutual friend becomes a delivery system. That's what triggers are. Handles on your attention. Then they run intermittent reinforcement, the love bombing to devaluation cycle. Reward, punish, disappear, return. You call it chemistry. This creates what psychologists call a trauma bond. It's conditioning. That's why your so-called ignoring is fragile. Because you're not fighting a person, you're fighting a trained pattern in your own body. Here's the rule of control. Prediction equals power. If they can predict your reaction, they can script your day. They time it when you're tired, rushed, public, exposed. Then you do the work for them. This is the asymmetry that should offend you. They spend one sentence. You spend an afternoon burning. They spend one look. You spend a week replaying it. They spend one rumor. You spend months trying to clear your name. That isn't a conflict, it's a transaction, where you're the currency. And the enemy in that transaction isn't just a toxic person displaying narcissistic personality traits. It's a value parasite. It doesn't create, it extracts. Your attention is the blood supply. This is why performative ignoring fails. You might not speak, but you still monitor. That's not starvation, that's slow feeding. More precisely, it's an attention arbitrageur. They buy your time for the price of a single text message and sell it back to you as a week of anxiety. You think you're not responding, but you're still paying interest, compounding every hour you replay, scan, and rehearse. Now add status contamination. You tell yourself you're ignoring, but you still monitor. You still collect intel. You still ask, casually, have you heard from them? You still watch the room when you enter. You still notice who they're sitting with. You still measure the temperature of the crowd. That surveillance is submission. You're tracking them to regulate yourself. You call it smart, but the cost is your bandwidth and your baseline. This is why the ancient political arenas understood attention better than modern self-help ever will. Machiavelli had language for this trap. He separated cruelty well used from half measures. The difference wasn't morality, it was structure, decisive and finished versus drip-fed and weak. Ignoring is the political half measure, trying to punish without ending the war, keeping the corridor open while pretending you closed the door. Half measures invite escalation because they teach the opponent exactly where you can be moved. He warned you why. Men should be either treated generously or destroyed, because they take revenge for slight injuries. For heavy ones they cannot. Ignoring is a slight injury. It's enough to annoy the enemy, energize them, and make them seek revenge, but not enough to destroy the only thing that matters, their access to your nervous system. In Renaissance courts, people survived on perception. Attention was currency. Silence worked only with detachment. Performative silence telegraphed fear, and predators smelled it. Court politics proved a brutal truth. You can't ignore someone while still broadcasting that they matter. To your body, your habits, your surveillance. So the goal isn't thicker skin. Thick skin is a myth for people who want to keep touching the fire and pretend it's growth. The real solution is fewer mental access points. When the other person has no handles, they can't pull you. When they can't predict you, they can't script you. When they can't contaminate your status, they can't recruit the crowd against you. You need architectural deletion. This is why no contact exists as a strategy. Your target state isn't calm. Calm can be performed. The target state is indifference, an absence of internal movement. The insult lands and nothing rises. The bait appears and nothing reaches. This is the sovereignty protocol, 5 steps. If you execute all 5, the parasite starves. Step 1 of 5, control split. You split the world cleanly. What is yours to command? Your attention, your actions, your words, your interpretation. This is your locus of control. What is external noise? Their opinions, their moods, their strategies, their need to be seen. Most people blur the line, and that blur is where they get controlled. They try to command what is not theirs, someone else's respect, someone else's remorse, someone else's understanding, and they neglect what is theirs, the gate to their mind. Failure mode. You try to control externals. You chase their respect, their apology, their explanation. And because you can't command it, you keep checking, replaying, waiting. That's not a mindset problem. That's a control error. Most people fail because they don't lose the argument. They lose the interpretation. They label everything. He disrespected me. She betrayed me. They're trying to embarrass me, and the moment you label it, you load it with meaning. You turn a behavior into a verdict. You take a stimulus and convert it into identity. I am the one who was disrespected. Now you have to react, because the label demands a performance. Step 2 of 5, opinion removal. Opinion removal is surgical. Instead of insult, say, a sound came out of a mouth. Instead of disrespect, say, a person attempted to lower my status. Instead of betrayal, say, someone pursued their incentives. This isn't denial, it's precision. You're stripping away the melodrama that feeds your nervous system. Failure mode. The moment you label it as disrespect, the mental courtroom reopens. Now you're not handling a stimulus, you're defending an identity, and identities demand revenge. Step 3 of 5, Reward Loop Severance. You impose emotional austerity. Austerity means you cut luxury spending, and your biggest luxury is fantasy conversation, the imaginary debate, the imaginary revenge, the imaginary speech where everyone claps and the enemy finally understands what they did. That internal theater is dopamine. It feels like progress. It feels like processing, but it's rehearsal, and what you rehearse becomes your reality. So you install circuit breakers, not motivational quotes. When the urge to rehearse hits, you execute one of these procedures. Objective data logging, one paragraph of facts, 0 adjectives, then terminate the file. Physical circuit break, discharge the adrenaline loop. Output conversion, convert agitation into completion. You're teaching your mind a new reflex. Provocation triggers production, not rumination. Failure mode, you keep processing forever. You keep running imaginary conversations. The parasite stays alive because you keep feeding it in private. Now the erasure sequence, not ignore them. Remove the access points. Deny rehearsal. No replaying. No if I said this. No mental courtroom where you present evidence to an invisible jury. When the scene starts looping, you cut it off like an infection. You don't entertain it. You don't improve it. You don't finish the thought. You starve it. Deny exposure. Remove feeds. Remove mutual intel. Remove bait environments. If you keep walking past the same window, you're not brave. You're feeding a compulsion. Protect your attention like it's blood. Because it is. Deny identity hooks. They'll try to assign you a role. Victim, villain, savior, obsessive, cold-hearted. The problem. Refuse the casting. You don't argue the label. You don't defend against it. You simply don't accept the part. Deny emotional deadlines. You don't process them on a schedule they set. No, I have to respond today. No, I need closure now. Deadlines are how they rush you into mistakes. You answer when it's clean, when it's useful, or not at all. If you want a living example of indifference as a weapon, the Stoics weren't theorists. They were tested in public. There's a story told about Cato the Younger. He's provoked in public, spat on, and he wipes his face and continues as if the spitter doesn't exist. The message is surgical. You don't have the authority to move me. Epictetus gave you the blueprint. The event is neutral until you add a judgment, remove the judgment, and the handle disappears. Marcus Aurelius understood this as well. External events cannot touch the soul unless you permit it. That's the point. If you react when provoked, you're no longer acting, you're being acted upon. Power isn't having no emotions. Power is refusing to let your emotions become someone else's remote control. Indifference is internal, but once you have it, you weaponize it externally without looking petty. Step 4 of 5, access control. We'll replace ignore with a cleaner frame. Manage access. You simply decide what a person is allowed to reach. Your time, your words, your proximity, your attention. Think in terms of limited liability. Some people get full access. Some people get the receptionist version of you. Some people get nothing, because any opening becomes a weapon. This is where strategic civility becomes lethal. The gray rock method in action. Not warm, not cold, not theatrical. Polite, brief, unmemorable. Give them nothing to hook into. No heat, no performance, no visible effort. What they get is based on behavior, not history. Not we've known each other for years. Not but they're families. Not but we used to be close. Behavior buys privileges. Bad behavior revokes them. Failure mode. You grant access based on history and guilt. You become predictable. And predictable people are programmable. Next, the counterbait protocol. Respond to facts only. Starve tone, insinuation, and drama. If they send a foggy, emotional message designed to pull you into a spiral, you don't answer the fog. You answer the single concrete point, if it even deserves an answer. And you control timing like a strategist. Immediate replies train people to treat you as an emergency service. Delayed replies create space. Space kills manipulation, because manipulation needs urgency. No announcements, no justification. Step 5 of 5, cloaking. In social arenas, the bait becomes public. Third-party triangulation. Did you hear what he said? Gossip. People are talking. Public tests. Jokes at your expense. Subtle disrespect. Little probes to see if you'll defend yourself. Your rule is simple. Never defend. Never explain. Defense admits the frame. Explanation invites debate. Debate creates engagement. Engagement is oxygen. And this is where the flying monkeys arrive. The helpful mutuals who deliver poison with a smile. When a mutual friend says, Did you hear what enemy said about you? The response isn't silence, it's surgical. I hadn't noticed. I've been focused on Project X. Failure mode. You take the bait publicly. You clear your name, explain yourself, defend your intent. Then you become the spectacle that keeps the whole machine running. Old Roman and court tactics understood this. Deny the opponent a clean target. Make yourself boring to attack. If they can't get a predictable emotional reaction, they can't rally the crowd. If they can't extract a spectacle, they lose interest. Predators hate empty rooms, so you become an empty room with a locked door. And one final rule decides whether you're free or still rented. Here's the only test that matters. If you have to try to ignore someone, they still have access to your nervous system. Performative silence is still a relationship. Real freedom is when they can't reach you not because you're strong, but because you deleted the access points and starved the parasite. If you want the weapons they hide from the masses, subscribe. This channel is built for people who can tolerate uncomfortable truths and use them.